Hey, what's up, guys? So this is going to be opening 045, the Rose-Tamenori opening, which is actually just a one move extension from actually the Rose Birth opening in opening 044. So you probably expect most of the content over here to actually overlap with 044. So similarly, I recommend this for advanced players and above playing black to actually try out this variation. So this is quite a standard rose variation. So this is the usual sequence that actually builds up to rose. So you can see the sequence indicated over here. You have D7, G3 being the best move, C4, and of course, up till this point, this is actually the Rose Birth opening. So this is the Rose Birth branch of openings, and of course, your opponent can actually choose to play the bottom right variation, and if he were to actually choose to jump into B4, that basically kickstarts the Rose-Tamenori opening, which I covered in 044, the usual variation of this sequence is to actually just play out to b3, and then black just sort of regroups back to the right, and white jumps into the center with black making a bold jump into the center as well. And of course, the most perhaps easy to remember sequence. So even if you see that for white, you can actually play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably so many playable variations for white, and yet A5 being one of the most commonly and well-known sequence would actually be, I think, expected to be a +2 variation this way. So I think it's also popular because of how intuitive it is to actually just grab the edge to the side, which is a quiet move earlier in that position against the longest row of the board, and then basically black just jumps into poison, and then black just goes in for that interior clean quiet move, and white just simply just covers the edge. Of course, if you can see, white generally has many options to play in the mid game to late mid game, while black generally has perhaps limited options. Over here, if black didn't play a4, he would actually probably result in a losing situation for most options, and over here as well. But it is fairly intuitive for black. So if you were to actually choose to play this opening, you really need to know a lot of the book variations and many lines, because if, as you can see, white has many options to play, and that may result in many different best counters for yourself as well. So while you're preparing for perhaps a deeper line for the Rose-Tamenori opening, just be aware that white has more options than perhaps black towards the late mid game. So whether you want to initiate and go there, it's probably your choice. And of course, if you're white and you feel comfortable when you're playing an opponent playing this opening, you can probably remain confident that if you see that, hey, I still have so many positive or playable options over here as recommended by the software, it's perfectly fine for me to just go ahead to play along with the book and see how my opponent wants to vary it. So again, over here you realize black doesn't really have many options to choose to vary it. It's just f7 over here or c2 that are probably more playable. And again, over here you realize that white still has more playable options, like maybe 5 of them as compared to black. So, and yet still some people really just insist on playing the Rose-Tamenori as black. So I would really advise that if you really want to go into this specialized line, just develop and be aware of how you can be defensive within this opening as much as possible. If not, I would probably recommend some other opening. I think I almost don't really see any Japanese players play this particular line. I think Japanese players are perhaps one of the most conservative players in terms of just trying to secure a higher win rate and a better position for themselves. So I think that speaks for itself. But of course, the Rose opening variation does have its potential benefits in terms of other variations that you can consider. So on that note, I'll end off this video with probably a further deeper analysis covered on this opening, and hope that benefits you.